wonderful.
You know, I do this like 18 times a day, and yet always at the last minute I start to get and I couldn't. Anyway, never mind. Hi everybody, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you. We were just talking about Miles Davis and Jimi Hendrix.
Oh really? What about him?
Go ahead, Charles.
Hey, Richard. Richard introduced him, and so he's sitting in the living room playing in New York supposedly, and Miles goes, I'll sing you some music. And Jimmy goes, you know, I don't read music. He said, get the fuck out of here.
Hey, last night they had a documentary on him on I think it was on the PBS show. They were showing a documentary of him.
On Miles, you mean?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what prompted this discussion.
That's what prompted this.
And then they had.
Like I said, I did a whole Jeopardy thing on things you may or may not know about Miles Davis. Does anybody know when was the last time Miles Davis played and where he played?
My husband's in the other room and he just turned it, so I'll go ask him.
Well, actually, the last place he played was in the actual documentary. It was in Switzerland, at Montreux.
Really?
Yes, and he played with Quincy Jones, and that's at the end of the documentary where you see Miles is playing. But I love fun facts about Miles Davis. I mean, because he has a lot of weird ones. So most people don't realize this, but his daddy was a doctor in St. Louis, and he got accepted at Juilliard.
At where?
Juilliard.
Really?
Just didn't go, I guess.
And he didn't go because he saw Charlie Parker. He goes, "Oh no, y'all ain't doing what I'm doing."
Oh wow!
Right. So that's always the fun facts. There are tons of like weird offhand stuff. Like one is that if you've ever read his book, and it's a great book, by the way. He talks
Quincy Troop's book.
Yeah, the Quincy Troop book.
Yeah. What's it called?
It's called Miles Davis. I can't even think of, but it's by Quincy.
I'll look it up. I'll get it.
But it's funny because when he gets the Kennedy Center Awards, they get in a limo with this white couple, and Cecily Tyson is in there. And the white guy asks Miles, "Why are you so damn famous?" You know.
Why are you so damn what?
Why are you so damn famous?
I guess it was a small car after that.
The book explains in excruciating detail about Cecily is just like, you really shouldn't have asked that.
Here comes Clyburn is coming in.
Okay.
Good. He brought a technical person with him so that there would be no no problems.
All right.
Can you hear us? Okay.
They're muted.
They're muted. Okay.
They're probably waiting for 1 o'clock.
Right. Yeah.
So we have 4 minutes.
The video's turned off.
Oh.
I'm not going to tell y'all what Richard said about the time.
Oh.
How we
I know what he said.
Why it is we had to observe the right.
Richard,
as a congressman.
I guess.
Can you hear us?
Our guest is here.
He must be muted.
He's muted now, but
yeah,
he's here.
He's muted.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna. I guess we'll wait 4 minutes.
See if he wants to wait 4 minutes.
Oh yeah.
Somebody needs to unmute him.
Well, okay, yeah. I
think he's getting his stuff together first.
Yeah.
Okay. Richard, can you lay out some ground rules for us, please?
Can I do one?
Hey guys, how's everybody?
Ground rules.
Hi. Happy New Year.
Same to you. I have not seen some of you guys in a long, long time.
Yes.
Charlene, how are you? It's been so long.
I'm fine. I'm happy to see you. Does this mean that I can call Eleanor Norton because she won't be busy like you would normally be busy? I haven't managed to call her in the last week because you all are so busy.
Oh, I'll tell you, this stuff up here, it's hard to know what you're doing. We are busy. I don't know what we're doing, but we're busy. Hazel, how are you? And you're a little bit muted.
I'm fine, sir. How are you? It's so good to see you.
I'm okay.
Now I can't see.
Good to see you guys.
Yes.
No, I can't see the congressman anymore.
I can.
Oh, there you are. Okay, I see you now. Yeah. And
I've just known a few of these people longer, but maybe not as long as I've known. I don't know. That is Mignon that's got my grandson's fiance.
Oh, thank you. I will take care of that right now.
That's good.
Please do.
Hey, Ralph.
Hello there.
Okay, that's Kathleen. Hi.
Hi.
Adam Powell. Boy, people are just coming right in.
Yeah, popping in on time, which is good. So we can go ahead and start.
Well, let's wait till 1 o'clock.
It's okay.
2 minutes.
We have 2 minutes.
And now I've started the recording, Richard.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so if everyone can mute their mics, please. Thank you. Except for the Congress.
Hello? Oh, we're back? Okay. Because everything froze for a moment.
Everything froze? Okay.
Okay. Unfroze. Okay. Oh, there he is.
Yes, James.
Ooh. 1 minute to go.
1 minute to go. Somebody compared this to the Hollywood Squares last time. The way this is laid out. Okay.
Just square for me.
Darlene could make it. She was unsure whether she could, whether the White House would prevent her from being here. Hi, Darlene. Oh, you got to unmute.
Looks like she's still working.
Okay, as Fergus.
Quite a crowd.
Yeah.
What do you say there, Richard Prince?
Oh, Fred. Yes.
Distinguished Congressman Clyburn. Thank you, my friend.
Hey. Yes.
Donald Suggs sends regards, Congressman Clyburn, St. Louis American, St. Louis, Missouri.
Did you have to bring that name up? I mean,
I did, Charlene.
Without it.
No, Charlene, I had to bring it up.
Okay. Do what you have to do.
Okay, it's 1 o'clock. Okay, so we're going to start. Greetings, everybody, and everybody on Facebook Live as well. My name is Richard Prince, and I write a column called Journal-isms about diversity issues in the news business. And we're happy to see the people on Facebook Live as well as those on the Zoom. People are being admitted at a rapid clip right now. We're going to skip the introductions for right now so that we can, I can turn things over to Charlene Hunter-Gault, who will lead us in a toast to James Blue, who is here already. And take it away, Charlene.
Well, thank you so much, Richard, and Happy New Year to everybody. I'm sure it's going to be a better year for us all. Let me just quickly say that I have mixed emotions as I introduce our honoree, James Blue, who I've watched grow, dare I say, in many ways over the years since we first met during Operation Restore Hope in Mogadishu, Somalia, when he was, can you believe it, 22 years old, and working as a special assistant to the already legendary Tom Brokaw. And even then, I mean, James' boundless energy, and look at that smile. He had it back then. He was 22 years old. And you know, even trying to remember circumstances let me know that in those days, he was going places in our industry. And I want to pat myself on the back and say that I was prescient because from there, I could see that James was going to go on a journey to the horizons that was going to make us all so proud. And he's been on that journey. Now, true to his professional existence, he's in a hurry today to get on with his big new job at the Smithsonian. So I'm not going to go over that long list of impressive awards and citations he has earned since then. But I know that this crowd would never forgive me if I didn't say that he is a member of this distinguished association of Black journalists. And also, I know that this group will know how to Google him, if you haven't already, to get all of those other things that apply to his amazing journey. So let me just say that over the 29 years since Somalia, James has won every broadcast journalism award and has also served as an adjunct professor at the Columbia University Graduate School of Journalism. Now, my daughter Susan, who got to know James when he and his lovely family, his husband John, and now grown children Effie and Alden, vacationed next door. He's saying, "Oh no, what's coming now? I can see this." But they used to vacation next door to us on Martha's Vineyard, and she stays in touch with him probably more than I do. So when I told her that James was leaving the NewsHour, where he served, among other things, as senior producer and my editor and advocate on my series on solutions to racism, the first question Susan asked me was, "Well, who are you going to fight with now at the NewsHour?" Because she knows that we often had our moments. Yes, James was my sparring partner, but that meant that he often came up with ideas for interviews that I didn't have. He argued for them with the rest of the team in daily planning meetings. And among other things, he often cut my often overlong scripts, which we sparred about, let me put it that way. But like all good sparring partners, that made me and others on the program better servants of the people, not enemies of the people, but servants of the people, providing our viewers with news that they could use to be good, if not better. And believe me, I have obtained his new email address, and I plan to stay on his case. Although he will probably soon tell you that's the last thing he needs as he goes forward in his new job at the Smithsonian, where I'm sure I speak for everybody on this panel and everybody who will be watching his work. I'm sure that diversity and inclusion in his programming will be a top priority. And I know he will make us all of us, proud in his brand new job. Congratulations, James. I really am going to miss you, but I'm not, because I'm going to be in touch every day. Believe me.
All right. Well, let's give James a toast. That's Charlotte has led it. Hear, hear. Congratulations, James.
Thank you.
Hear, hear.
Thank you. You know, it is an amazing thing to work with your heroes. And I don't think she's ever heard me say this, but, you know, as a kid growing up and learning the journey that Charlene and her compatriot Houston took to desegregate the University of Georgia, you never know how your life will intersect. And so I always knew of her. I knew of the journey and the path that she took. And then meeting her in Somalia. And then one of the things she didn't tell you, we actually met subsequently. I worked in the ABC Johannesburg Bureau, and we were being flown by the South African government into Mozambique. But for some reason, we had some trouble. And so we had to stay overnight near the border between South Africa and Mozambique. And I didn't know how to drive. Charlene knew how to drive. And so if you can imagine a group of journalists in a van with me as the navigator and Charlene as the driver late at night on roads that none of us have traveled. But that's a really important message, because we never know where we're going to end up. We never know the roads that we go down and where it's going to take us. And for many years, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And I often thought, well, why haven't I become an executive producer? What is it that I really want to do? And the thing that I would say to people is that patience is our friend. As long as we get to do good work and we are with people who support us and who challenge us and who give us the opportunity to do what it is we love to do, then we are growing and we are opening ourselves up to the next opportunity. And believe it or not, the opportunity at the Smithsonian came available and was made clear over the course of literally 3 phone calls. one in August, one in October, and then finally one just before Election Day when they said, please come join us. And it's just really, it is exactly what I want to be doing. And in addition to the Smithsonian, I'm also the Senior Vice President for News and Docs for all the MTV channels. So that's Comedy Central and MTV and Logo and VH1 and all sorts of stuff. And I think the opportunity, as Charlene had said, is large. And I will obviously take from this, from all the stuff that I've done, I will take it and be standing on your shoulders. I remember when I first joined NABJ, I am a accidental journalist. I thought I was headed to law school. And I ended up taking a course with Paul Taylor. I don't know if anyone knows him, Paul Taylor of the Washington Post. He taught a course at Princeton. Every semester, they bring in a distinguished journalist. He taught a course at Princeton. This was after he uncovered the Gary Hart, Donna Rice affair. And he really showed me and opened up a world that I knew nothing about. And as I'm trying to coach my kids into applying for internships, there is a direct line between the internship I had the summer of my junior year in college, which was the summer of 1990. And I will remind you, that summer, I worked at the ABC News New York offices. That summer was an incredible summer. Nelson Mandela came to the US for a ticker tape parade. And then in early August, I got a phone call from the foreign desk. There's been an invasion in the Middle East. The phones are going crazy, and we need you to get in here. Again, those events changed my life, and it put me on a trajectory toward becoming a foreign reporter, becoming a news producer, and I'm just so thankful for all of the support. And I'm sure I will have questions, and I will call on people for their expertise, but thank you for this tribute. It really it's meaningful, and I take it with the wind at my back. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, James. Yes, yes, yes. Now, we have 5 minutes left in this segment. For those who don't know, tell us what the Smithsonian Channel is all about and what you plan to do with that title.
Well, the Smithsonian Channel really is, in my mind, an undervalued asset of the Viacom-CBS family. It is a license arrangement between Viacom-CBS and the Smithsonian Institution. A certain part of the work that we do has to originate and have an affiliation with the museums. And to my surprise, there's not a lot of arts programming. At the NewsHour, I've done a lot of arts programming. I created a primetime arts show that is hosted by Amna Nawaz. And so I think one of the things you'll see is my trying to really exploit the arts and to use that as a basis to just trying to figure out what is possible. As you know, arts really isn't covered in television very much. And I think that is a real opportunity. The other thing they're very interested in are events, trying to kind of program things for people beyond the television. I think to think of this as a simply create programs and get people to watch them on their TV would be a mistake. I think we want to create experiences and create some brands that people really will feel connected to. So I think there's a lot of possibility for cross-pollination. Viacom-CBS also owns BET, also owns Logo, also owns Country Music Television. And I think you could think about what are the ways in which the Smithsonian brand and label might interact with those channels. Similarly with Comedy Central, I'd love to figure out, could Trevor Noah do some type of documentary type work beyond what he's doing now? So I think they're open to all of those ideas.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I think we're out of time for this particular segment. Oh, the last question I have, are there any jobs available?
I am going to be building a team, and I just don't know what the needs are, because in anything, there are several ways to produce. And I don't know if we will need internal capacity, whether we will be working with production companies. I do know the pattern in the past has been to use production companies, which, you know, has its advantages. But I also think for people of color who are not as capitalized potentially, working as a production company also has its limits. So as Charlene said, you can't look at any of the things that I've done and not see the diversity that is inherent in it. And so, you know, whether it's production companies or building our own team out, that will be a priority that makes really great programming. So,
all right, thank you very much, and good luck, and we'll be watching, as they say.
Thank you.
Now let's go. The congressman is here. We're eager to hear what happened at the swearing in and what's going to happen, what he thinks is going to happen in the next few days. So we have his daughter here, Mignon. I don't see you on the screen, but I know you're here.
I'm here.
So oh, there you are. Okay.
Yes.
Please introduce your dad.
Thank you so very much, and good afternoon, everyone. Those of us who know the congressman well often struggle the most when asked to introduce the dean of the South Carolina congressional delegation and the third ranking Democrat in the United States House of Representatives. That struggle doesn't come because there are a lack of titles. Heaven knows he has many that have been earned or conferred, but for fear of not doing this great person justice. We are so pleased on the opening day of the 117th Congress. I had to doubly look that up because I knew I would get in real trouble if I didn't get the number right. That Congressman Clyburn was able to squeeze us in. And I know I've seen him all day morning to squeeze us in and enlighten us today. Now, I am calling him representative today for two reasons. Years ago, he was going to be in a parade and asked me, should it be, you know, we were talking about should it be representative or congressman? And of course, I'm saying representative because, you know, because that's just me. He says, no, congressman, nobody calls anybody representative, they call them congress. Of course, he won that. On the side of the car was congressman, but today I have the mic and I'm calling him representative. I'm calling him representative because of a number of things. He represented his youth group in Sumter, South Carolina, the NAACP, because there were hundreds of young people who wanted us to step up, but their parents were not economically able or were not independent enough to do so. Now, while my grandparents were not economically rich by any stretch, they were entrepreneurs. My grandfather was a minister. My grandmother was a beautician. And so they made their own money in their own way and could not be bossed from that perspective. That commitment to closing those injustice divides went on to the campus of South Carolina State, where he met my mother outside of an Orangeburg jail, because things were still not equal and equitable for all. That went on to the streets of Columbia and in his service to Governor John West. And that continued to the South Carolina, a commission. And all of those things to me embody and earn the word representative for today, because he has and continues to represent us. To represent those who are not in the position to speak up and to speak out. And he represents me still of his, as he calls me, his senior citizen daughter, who's still attempting to find her way, but he represents us proudly. So I know you don't want to hear any more from me, but from him, the gentleman from South Carolina, who represents our interests and our passions. And for journalists on this line, I want you to also remember that many years ago, the congressman, might have been 1984, subject to check, he will correct me gladly if I'm wrong. He established a weekly newspaper in Charleston, South Carolina. Why? Because he did not feel that our interests were represented broadly enough when it came to the pages then, of newspapers in South Carolina. So I will not delay any longer by introducing you my parental unit, but most importantly for all of us, the most powerful man of 2020 in the political sphere, Congressman James Clyburn.
Yay.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mignon, and thanks to all of you who are present here today for allowing me to spend some time with you. Listening to Mignon reminded me of an inquiry I got several years ago when I was walking through the halls of this Capitol. Someone stopped me one day who had just listened to something that I said on the floor of the House. And it was a reporter who asked me exactly when was it that you felt that you had really made it in this place? And I said to the reporter, it was when people started referring to me as Commissioner Mignon Clyburn's father. And so I feel that proudly of her and her accomplishments. That newspaper she talked about really was Mignon. She was a publisher. She was everything to that newspaper that she could possibly be. I was just I borrowed the money that started. And I was so proud of the fact that when she got elected to the South Carolina Public Service Commission, in South Carolina, you have to run in a joint session of the legislature. She got elected to that job in a General Assembly that the vast majority of was a party that she was not a member of, and her dad was not a member of. And she got elected without a runoff. And one of my friends, Senator Patterson, who was supposed to be managing her campaign on the Senate side, when I called him late that night to thank him, I said to him, I suspect that you did not know where all those votes came from. He said, no, I didn't. I'm still trying to find out. Well, it was really because of Mignon and her mother, who went over to the State House every day. And I remember this when Emily's diabetes was causing problems with her sight. And she wore a patch on one eye, but she stood outside of that legislative door every day with Mignon, and together they got it done. And of course, when they got a little close, I got on the phone to try to burnish up their efforts. So thank you, Mignon, for being here today. Thank you for all that you mean to me and your two sisters, Jennifer and Angela, who I think may be Facebooking today for this effort.
All right.
So
Congress, oh, go ahead.
Let me
I was about to say we have limited time now because you've got the rest of your agenda, and we have all these journalists with questions. So let's go right to the questions if we can. Who's got questions for the congressman? Yes, Charlene. Oh, unmute.
Unmute, Sean.
You're still muted, ma'am.
Muted. I'm not muted. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. As you know, you represent the state where I was born. I know you know that. So
yes.
when I say due west, people say due west of what? And you know what. So okay. What do you think is going to happen on Inauguration Day? Who's going to be present and who is not going to be present?
Well, I think that Joe Biden and Kamala will be present on the steps just below the window you see behind me. The platform is there already. It will hold maybe on that day probably a couple of thousand people. as chair of the inaugural committee, we are going to make sure that people participate in a way that will make them a part of the event, but keep them safe and healthy and comfortable. Now, if this is not one of the coldest days of the year on January 20th, it will be unusual because every inauguration I've ever attended was just icy cold. So I've been telling people that we're going to do it in such a way that you will be a part of it, but you can stay warm at home in your pajamas and enjoy it.
Well, just a quick follow-up though. Do you expect the current president to be there?
No, I don't. That would come as a surprise to me if he were to attend. But it would be a pleasant surprise.
Thank you.
Okay.
If you didn't.
Mr. Clyburn, Richard, if it's okay.
Yes.
Mr. Clyburn, you were one of the first to speak out concerning the African-American picks of the president-elect, and at that time you were not satisfied. I'd like to know how you feel now, a few more weeks after that he has gotten a few more of us in, and also, do you think, as Al Sharpton thinks, that the Attorney General should be a Black person?
Well, thank you very much for the question. A couple of things I would like to say about that. First of all, I never had any doubt that the efforts put forth by Joe Biden and Kamala Harris would be very much to my liking. What I had a problem with, though, was something I grew up with, and many of you may remember this. You don't get a second chance to make a first impression. And to me, first impressions are lasting. And I wanted the initial rollout to be reflective and would start discussions that would keep people engaged. The moment the rollout was the way it was, with the security people going first, and I started getting phone calls within an hour of that press conference. That I didn't want. And so I spoke out in the way I did because I wanted them to get the rollout right. You know, Martin Luther King Jr., in his letter from Birmingham City Jail, dealt with the issue of time and weight. And if you recall, he went on to write a book developed upon that letter called Why We Can't Wait. And so I just didn't want to be put in the position once again of waiting for them to get to us. Get to us right off Jump Street, have a first impression that would be lasting. And so that's why I spoke out the way I did. Now, as it relates to the Attorney General, look, it is always important to me to have people of color in very important places. But I will remind each and every one of you that Thurgood Marshall and Clarence Thomas are both Black. So just being Black does not do it for me. I want Thurgood Marshall, not Clarence Thomas, on the Supreme Court. And the same thing goes for gender. Ms. Ginsburg, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, an excellent Supreme Court justice. I prefer her 10 times, maybe 1,000 times over her replacement. So you got to deal with the people and who and what they are. Skin color is important, but it ain't everything.
Congressman Clyburn, this is Charles Robinson from Maryland Public Television.
Yes, sir.
Couple of ideas here. First and foremost, you know that there is an election that's going on in Georgia right now, and I'm quite certain that you're supporting the Democrats in that election. But I'm wondering, as you're looking at that election, do you, in the back of your mind, start thinking about what's going to happen in the midterms? Right now, your margins are pretty thin as far as Democrats to, not thin, but you know, you have enough to get most of the stuff you want to get done in the House. But how do you increased enthusiasm after the swell of enthusiasm?
Well, it means we have to work harder. We have to be more focused. You know, it's much better. Last Congress, we had, what, 233, 234. This Congress is more like 222. We don't know about 2 races that are still to be determined. And of course, the magic number is 218. And as a majority whip, it is my job to make sure we get to 218 anytime an issue go to the floor. So I'm going to have to work a little harder. I'm going to have to stay more focused. I'm going to have to do some pre-legislative work to make sure that the feelings, the priorities of our members get considered as you put the legislation together. I think it's always easier to work with the members when the members have been a part of putting the bill together. So I'm going to spend a lot more time doing that than I have in the past. Now, if we do this right, it will take care of the midterm elections. But if we go and do it the traditional way, we're going to have some serious consequences 2 years from now. And I've been here when we did it the traditional way and lost. I've also been here when we reversed that. Many of you may recall that it was because we were able to reverse that trend that Newt Gingrich got run out of town. He went out saying what he was going to do and how they were going to perform in off-year elections. We focused and we did what nobody thought we could do in that off-year election, and Newt Gingrich got run out of town by his conference. I expect for the same thing to happen 2 years from now. It's been done before. And as many of you know, I used to teach history, and I study history every day. And anything that's happened before can happen again.
Okay, but Vanessa Williams.
Good afternoon, Congressman Clyburn, Vanessa Williams. I'm sorry, Whip Clyburn.
Jim.
Washington Post. I wanted to know what you think about Georgia. Do you think that there are, what do you think their chances are? Do you think the chances of them electing at least one or two of those Democrats, and especially electing a Black Democrat like Warnock, do you think the chances there are better than they were in your state in the general when Jamie wasn't able to win that seat? And also, if you could elaborate on what you thought happened beyond people being spooked by slogans. Thank you.
Well, 2 things. First of all, I do believe we can win in Georgia, and I do believe the only difference they need to make in Georgia and South Carolina is to win on election day. Jamie went in to November the 3rd, leading by 150,000 votes. We have a way of calculating, and we were in the lead big time. On election day, we got outvoted. We did not do the groundwork that was necessary to win on election day. When you get beyond the television, you got to do the canvassing. We did not do canvassing sufficiently. We are working hard on that. Jamie has been working with us, working with Warnock and Ossoff, giving them the benefit of his experience. He will tell you himself that was the failure on our part, not doing all that we could have done on election day. I think they're going to get it right in Georgia, and I think we're going to do better. In fact, I know my organization down there, such as it is, working in Augusta, working in Savannah. I just finished doing some stuff at Sanford Bishop throughout his entire congressional district. Yes, I think we got a chance, an even chance of winning both of those seats. And if I were to go on my own emotions, I do think that Warnock is in very, very good position to win.
Okay, Adam Powell.
Thank you. Adam Powell from the University of Southern California. First, thank you to you and all of our friends in South Carolina, because we had in our 50 state, we conducted election cybersecurity programs in all 50 states this year. And South Carolina had the second largest audience by far, over the third largest, and certainly the largest per capita. But to the question, the pandemic has really pushed us into the future. And now we have kids who can't go to school because they don't have the internet connections to go to K through 12 schools. We have people who can't get access to healthcare and wellness because they don't have internet access. So we're launching, in addition to our election cybersecurity initiative, we're launching a multidisciplinary digital inclusion initiative this year. And we will have some interesting partners when we announce this month. But we'd like to have your views on that, if we could, on how we can extend this essential service. I mean, we don't build houses now without indoor plumbing. We need to have internet access going to everybody.
Absolutely. You know, growing up in South Carolina, I grew up with a great appreciation for what electricity meant to rural communities and non-white communities in the 20th century. And I've studied the tabletop book developed by the co-ops called The Next Greatest Thing. And just to make my point, I tell the story often of a rural farmer who walked into church one evening down in Tennessee and said to the congregation, "Brothers and sisters, let me tell you something. The greatest thing on earth is to have the love of God in your heart. But the next greatest thing is to have electricity in your house." Now, I believe that rule applies to the 21st century. The greatest thing that we can do in the 21st century for rural America, for what I would call low-income communities, is to have internet in every home. One of the things I sat down and discussed with Joe Biden the Sunday night before my endorsement was what we need to do to make sure that healthcare is efficiently and effectively delivered to everybody. Cannot happen unless we have telehealth and telemedicine. To make sure that we have education adequately applied to every community. Cannot happen without online learning. We aren't going to have developments in rural communities of businesses and entrepreneurs without the internet. And I have introduced and passed the House twice what is called accessible and affordable internet for all. And that's a $100 billion investment that Joe Biden tells me is going to be an integral part of the infrastructure program that he's going to put forward. And so we are going to treat the information highway the same way we treat the interstate highway. And I do believe that that's what is going to get us to where we need to go.
Okay, Rochelle Riley.
Thank you very much. Congressman Representative Whip Clyburn. I am Rochelle Riley, a former longtime columnist at the Detroit Free Press and now working in city government with Mayor Mike Duggan. My question has to do with moving past the urgency of now, looking at Georgia and looking at the inauguration and looking at President-elect Biden not getting the information he actually needs to start the job. I'd like you to talk a little bit about what the Democratic Party and, for that matter, the Congress is doing to prepare for the mayhem that is going to be caused by the outgoing president and the seditionist senators and congressmen who seem to not understand the Constitution. And I also want to know if the hymn "We Shall Overcome" is going to be incorporated into the inaugural, since we're starting a new chapter of the civil rights movement that you and the president will have to lead.
Well, thank you very much for both those questions, and most especially the latter one that I'll get to in a minute.
Okay.
Look, we are going to do everything we possibly can to keep our caucus focused on what I call the pledge that we are all still committed to, with liberty and justice for all. We are going to stay focused on this pursuit that I call the great pursuit, the pursuit of a more perfect union. We know, I know probably more than most of you, looking around, I'm probably the elder participating here today, growing up in South Carolina. I know it has not been perfect, but the best thing going in the world today is this unit that we call the United States of America, and we've got to keep that pursuit going. And we'll focus on that. You might be surprised to know that Nancy Pelosi, Steny Hoyer, and myself talk daily, 4 and 5 times a day, on what we can do to make sure we maintain that focus. So we're working hard, much of which we cannot be too public with until we get through this week. But we've got to make sure that we keep everybody together to demonstrate that this current president is an anathema. We got to make him that and put him on the out to history to never be repeated again. Now, as far as lift every voice and sing, it's kind of interesting. I've been toying around with an idea now for 2 or 3 decades. Ever since I've been in the Congress, I've been trying to build up enough nerve to introduce a national hymn. I instructed my staff 2 weeks ago to prepare legislation for me to apply this week to make Lift Every Voice and Sing our national hymn. We got a national anthem. We don't have a national hymn. I would love to see that become our national hymn and being sung at events, not as the Negro national anthem, but as the United States of America's national hymn. We are putting that legislation in this week. I hope I can survive and see it passage.
Thank you very much. Is that on the record?
Everything is on the record.
Everything is on the record with me.
Excuse me while I go to Twitter then. Okay.
Okay, wait, Mary Curtis.
Thank you.
Then Mel, I'll add you.
Mary C. Curtis, columnist at CQ Roll Call and host of the Equal Time podcast. And I want to thank Majority Whip James Clyburn for being an amazing guest on one of the most popular podcasts. And I want to ask you, I know you can't give us the details, but what do you see as the priorities for the Biden-Harris administration going in when there's so many challenges, from the vaccine rollout to reversing so many executive orders that he put in, and also to flesh out some of the personnel that had been gutted in so many essential agencies? And particularly when there's some of your own House colleagues and now quite a few senators who are pushing back against the very legitimacy of the Biden-Harris administration, backed by a large part of the GOP base.
Well, thank you very much, Ms. Curtis. I'm gonna call you Ms. Curtis today, Mary.
Call me Mary, please.
My friend to the north of me. Look, first and foremost, it's got to be getting beyond this pandemic. As you know, I chair the select subcommittee dealing with the coronavirus. And I know that it's the most important thing that we can do now. We're not going to be able to do anything we want to do for healthcare until people are made healthy. We're not going to be able to pursue this country's greatness until people get comfortable with investing in things other than this pandemic effort. So Joe Biden has said in the first 100 days, he wants to have 100 million vaccinations done. I think he can do that. He's got to nationalize some things, including the National Guard. I really believe that this is not hard to do. It takes leadership. It's going to be cumbersome. But if we utilize the National Guard, we can utilize the Defense Department the way it can be utilized, I think we can get this done and do it in a way that will allow us to get back to some semblance of normal by the end of the year. So that's first and foremost. But beyond that, I think we've got to have a massive, comprehensive infrastructure project that will have as the centerpiece, as I just mentioned, what I would like to call, broadband. It's got to be at the centerpiece of it. But we've got to do water and sewage, and we got to have, because that's to maintain health in a lot of rural areas, we've got to have that kind of investment. We have got to do school construction. That should be a part of infrastructure. We got to do affordable housing, should be a part of infrastructure. If we do these things in one massive infrastructure program, it will be what I would call the 21st century New Deal in a fair way. Now, I said that because I'm not a New Deal Democrat. I'm a Truman Fair Deal Democrat, because the New Deal programs did not get to these communities that I'm working on now. So what we got to have is a 21st century program that will be a fair deal for everybody, and I think that this president is committed to that. The president.
Herb Frazier.
He's not on. He's not on. His question is, you have his question. He wants to know. Wait a minute, I'm going back up to look for it.
I see it.
Well, I'm ready.
Wants to know, what is the next role you see for Jamie Harrison?
Well, I think it's pretty well known that I have been a big advocate for Jamie Harrison becoming the chair of the Democratic National Committee, because I think that he has demonstrated that he can fundraise, which is a big part of that job. He has been a state chair. He spent 4 years as chair of the party in South Carolina. And while he was chair of that party, he developed a fellowship that has trained over 200 young people. We've got young people, black and white, who are running as Democrats now, who are running local positions that Jamie showed us how to do. So I think that Jamie knows the value of a 50-state program. Our party continues to suffer because we cannot get it ingrained in the DNA of the Democratic Party that we need a 50-state strategy, well-organized, well-funded, and I think that he has the background, he has experience for that, he is well-trained. Jamie has been a part of my life since he was an 11th grader. And so I know that he would be just what we need to run this party going forward. Remember, he's an associate chair now and general counsel. And of course, he has worked with members here. He was my floor leader when I was whipped the first time. So he knows the membership and all of the county chairs. Well, I was going to say, I think there are two people who may not be supporting him because they have aspirations themselves.
And two people have let's go with one other Facebook question, and then we'll go to Brenda Seiler. The question from Barbara Reynolds is, there are reports that some Secret Service Trump supporters have been transferred. Are you worried about the president and vice president-elect's security?
Yes, I am. I know Barbara very well. Thank you for the question, Barbara. Look, I'm always worried about that. I'm worried about the little bit that I know about what happened at Nancy Pelosi's home and Mitch McConnell's home. I know enough to know there's a certain amount of sophistication in those efforts that is beyond just run-of-the-mill vandalism. That bothers me. And I do know that we have to be a little more concerned about Kamala than we have had to be about other vice presidents before her. Now, we ought not run from what this country is all about. We know the history of the country. Is a reason this is the first time a woman has ever been vice president and a woman of color. And we know what that reason is. So just because we know it, we should not avoid it. We should confront it. And we should keep it in the forefront of our minds at all times. So yes, I am worried.
Okay, Fred Sweets and then Brenda.
Let me make sure I'm unmuted. Okay.
Yes.
You have two freshman congresswoman Cori Bush of Missouri and Jamal Bowman of New York, who have not committed to vote for Speaker Pelosi. How will you whip them, or do you intend to?
You know, it may come as a surprise to you, but I like Cori Bush. I admire her. I too have a podcast, and my last podcast for this month was with Cori Bush. I started my political life as an activist. I was 12 years old when I was elected president of my NAACP Youth Council. I was 19 years old when I organized the first sit-in to take place in South Carolina. John Lewis and I met as organizers of SNCC when we were both 19 or 20 years old, October 1960. So I understand activism. I respect activism. I have a great deal of admiration and respect for both those young people. I do believe in the final analysis, we will do what is necessary to keep this party together, because we understand that this party, the Democratic Party of the United States of America, at this particular juncture, is the only thing standing between us and chaos.
Heard that.
Thank you.
All right, Brenda Seiler. Melba, I got you on the list.
Hello, good afternoon, Congressman Clyburn. I'm Brenda Seiler with the Washington Informer. My question has to do with the cyber attacks that we are uncovering new layers every day to the depth of the attacks. Could you talk a little bit about how this needs to be addressed, what you see as being the priority in trying to deal with this particular problem?
You know, first and foremost, we must keep the country and its people safe and secure. And the only way to do that is for us to have a country where people turn to each other, to be strengthened by each other. And we cannot do that when we've got people who are playing into the hands of people who will do us harm. We've got a person running this country, and we'll be running for the next 17 days, who really see no problem with consorting with known enemies of this democracy. He himself demonstrates day in and day out that he has very low regards for this democracy. He is an autocrat who sees himself as the only one who can run the country, as the only one who's got a thought process, as the only one who is deserving of respect. And he has little respect for anybody else or anything else. So what we've got to do is look to each other for our mutual security and our mutual safety. And you cannot do that by ignoring the obvious. There are some obvious threats to the country. We know what they are and we know who they are, and we cannot ignore them. We've got to get through these next 17 days, and I really think that we have a team in Joe and Kamala that would put us where we need to be.
Okay, Ken Walker.
Thank you. Congressman, I'm just wondering whether, to what extent do you think President-elect Biden is sufficiently aware of the resistance of the white Republicans in Congress and the Senate to anything he might propose? I mean, these people are dedicated white supremacists in favor of white minority rule. And they're not going to just roll over for the Biden-Kamala administration. How is he expected to handle that?
Well, it may not be a surprise to you to find out that Joe and I have a relationship that goes back prior to his having been vice president or during the time he was a senator. I met him when he was still in the Senate. Now, the basis upon which our relationship was formed has to do with the history of the country and how this country has been challenged over the years. As you know, Brown v. Board of Education, the original case of Brown was Briggs v. Elliott. Well, now that's the original case that got to the court. The original case was Pearson v. Elliott, and then the Briggs family was substituted for Pearson. That case started in South Carolina, the little town of Somerton. Now, that case became one of 5 cases to be Brown. But one of those 5 cases was Belton v. Gebhardt out of Delaware. And Joe and I started really, it was on, I forgot, the Charlie Rose Show. It was the first time we did a program together. And this kind of a subject came up. And we were so enamored with our backgrounds and the way we got started in politics, we started to interact with each other. Now, as vice president, he saw what they did to Barack Obama. And he knows full well that they will attempt the same thing with him. And he is aware of that. I do believe he is prepared to deal with that. And I think having the experience that he had for 8 years with Barack Obama and being the go-to guy on several occasions, one of which to get beyond the Great Recession that he worked on back in 2009. I do believe that Joe Biden is prepared to deal with that issue. And I'm certainly prepared to help him deal with it.
Okay, we've got a couple of questions here about journalists. And one is, what do you see as our role as journalists of color going forward? And with that, I'll ask if you have any observations to make about the media coverage so far.
Well, you know, I often laugh at Mignon when we tried an investment in your business. I told her on one occasion, I think we can go broke faster doing something else. And so we decided to do something else. Well, I have great respect for the written word. I've done 2 books myself. The last one, Blessed Experiences, was my memoir. The first book I did was a whole bit of a history on the family, Briggs v. Elliott, and the people of Somerton, South Carolina. And so I know what you guys are up against. And I do know that what you bring to this discussion, you've got to redouble your efforts, because going forward, you're going to be needed like you've never been needed before. Your backgrounds, your experiences, you've got to share with people. Because I think a lot of young people who are coming along now are more prone to deal with sound bites than they are with dealing with the policy issues that you all can research and that you have lived and can share. So you're going to have a job going forward that's a little bit different than what you've had in the past, because you've not been challenged with having to get beyond sound bites. That's what we're challenged within this business. And I think that's what's going on and will be going on this week here. A lot of people who are paying more attention to those sound bites than they are to sound policy. And so your jobs are going to be challenging going forward. And I'm doing what I can. I just believe very strongly that media, Black media and Black folks in media got to be listened to more often than they have in the past, because we are but the sum total of our experiences. That's why I call my book Blessed Experiences, because I've said that all my experiences have not been pleasant, but all of them have been blessings. And those of us who have been blessed with the experience of being Black in America are going to have to share that with Americans, irrespective of their skin color, because that's what's going to get us to where we need to be.
Okay.
Marita Coley hand is up.
Right.
She was next.
Right.
St. Louis American appreciates you.
Hi, Congressman Clyburn. It's always a pleasure to have you, and thank you for supporting our event, Multicultural Media, Telecom, and Internet Council on December 9th. My question today is about the inauguration and the churches that were vandalized during the demonstrations last month. I'd just like to ask if you have personal opinions as to why you think there's lots of Black Lives Matter signs everywhere. Do you have personal opinions as to why you think the Black churches were vandalized? And as a member of one of them, Metropolitan AME, is the inauguration committee able to do anything to protect us during these upcoming demonstrations?
Well, I understand the import of your question, but let me answer it this way. Black Lives Matter is probably the most important racial, should I call, movement that has taken place in the last 20 or 25 years. And so I'm very concerned about Black Lives Matter and whether or not we really do the things that are necessary to keep that movement going. And that's why I spoke out about sound bites before, because I remember what Burn Baby Burn did to us back in the 60s. And now, a lot of you may have missed this. I don't know if Charlene is still on or not. But look, when John Lewis marched across the Edmund Pettus Bridge, that was March 1965. John Lewis and 599 others, 600 people walking across that bridge, beaten to near death. The reason John was marching on that day, because at the time, only 2% of Black folks in Alabama were registered to vote. And they were out marching to get people registered to vote. And we, as a result of that march, Bloody Sunday, as it became to be known, on August 6, 1965, that march took place, I think, on March 7th. On August 6th, Lyndon Johnson signed the Voting Rights Act, having called for it as a result of John Lewis's efforts. But guess what? Less than a year later, John had been kicked out of SNCC. They kicked him out because he refused to adhere to a philosophy in the soundbite of Burn Baby Burn. A lot of people forget that. I have not forgotten that. John and Lewis and I talked about it a whole lot. John was kicked out of SNCC. He left Georgia. John was up in New York at the Field Foundation for about a year before going back to Atlanta. So I give you that bit of history to say to you that Black Lives Matter. We've got to make sure that we do what is necessary to keep that movement alive. All of us with certain experiences, with certain skill sets, must do what we can so we won't have to relive this again. This is a very important movement that we cannot allow anybody to subvert. Now, I've been around this business long enough to know. I just mentioned about the vandalism at Mitch McConnell's house and Nancy Pelosi's house, how sophisticated it was. There's somebody trying to start something. That's what that is. And I've been victim of it. All of you have been victims of it. So we have to be careful that we do not allow an infiltration of this movement. Ask the Attorney General of Minnesota what they found out there in Minneapolis when people started breaking out windows and burning down buildings. There was an infiltration there. In Columbia, South Carolina, we had a very peaceful march in Columbia in support of Black Lives Matter. Their timing was wrong, and when the folks got there to infiltrate the movement, we had terminated the march, had come to an end. But they still went around Columbia breaking out windows. And we did an investigation. They had nothing to do with the movement. I don't know where they came from. I don't know why they came, but I knew we went to work and arrested them for having done it. So all I'm saying to you is, just because it's being done in the name of the movement doesn't mean it's a part of the movement. And that's a part of what your job is going to have to be going forward. That's why you're going to be so important, because you've had the life experiences. And you can say to people, like I did back when Shirley Sherrod was summarily fired at the Department of Agriculture. Y'all remember that episode?
Oh, yes.
Well, I knew Charles Sherrod, her husband. He was in SNCC with us. Charles Sherrod was the one that organized the movement up in Rock Hill, South Carolina. The first place that John Lewis was ever physically attacked was in Rock Hill, South Carolina. Charles Sherrod organized the jail, no bail movement. So when I heard that, I said, something's wrong. That's not the Shirley Sherrod that I know. And I was able to speak out publicly, and it led to a meeting with me and some folks in the White House, and they moved to rectify that. When they found out what happened, she had already been fired, she had already been embarrassed, and it was too late, and she would not go back to the job. And to prove how right I was about her, the other day when Vilsack was named to be run the Department of Agriculture again, Shirley Sherrod spoke out in support of him and said, I think he'll get it right this time. That's the kind of person she is. But that's not the way she was treated. That's not the way John Lewis was treated. We all lionize John Lewis today, but how was he treated back in 1965, 66, when it really happened?
I heard that. All right, Charles Robinson wants to ask about a report in the Washington Post.
I'm sorry to come back to you, Congressman. This is Charles Robinson from Maryland Public Television. There's a report that's just been posted on the Washington Post website regarding the president indicating to a conversation he had with the Secretary of State in Georgia. It was heated. Apparently, the president asked the Secretary of State to find him a little more than 11,000 votes to change the outcome in Georgia. It is recorded. I don't have an actual copy of that recording, but I'd like to get your reaction to the president pressuring a Secretary of State to change the votes in a state.
Well, we can expect almost anything from this president. But I can tell you this. There's something, Andy Young, that all of you know, good friend of mine. Andy and I talk a lot. Andy says, Black folks have an antenna that a lot of people don't have. Now, I could be very wrong about the Secretary of State, but this antenna says to me, he is not going to be bullied by the President of the United States. There's just something about me and the way I've viewed him, watched him, and as they say down in Gullah Geechee country, the way I read him, I just don't think he's going to be bullied by that. but even if he were, that doesn't make a difference in the outcome of the presidential election. Georgia was gravy. It was not the rice.
I heard that too. All right, Deborah Berry. Is Deborah there?
Hi. Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
Deborah Berry with USA Today. Good to see you again, Congressman. Question. You mentioned that there should be more canvassing on the ground in Georgia for the runoff. Are you worried there about suppression efforts? Because you mentioned that a few times in the past when we've talked. And also, secondly, particularly in your role as oversight over the COVID subcommittee, can you talk a little bit more about what could and should be done, particularly as it impacts people of color disproportionately, and what more we, the media, should cover as relates to that?
Well, a couple of things. Yes, I am worried about voter suppression. I always am, because there's no way, no matter how much we may guard against it, you just miss pockets sometimes. You have no idea what is being said where. You don't know who is reading what on social media. A lot of things that happened in the campaign back in 2016, people didn't find out what was really behind it until it was too late. And people believed certain things and acted on those beliefs without having the full knowledge of what was behind it. So I am worried about those kinds of efforts, because there's no way for you to guard against all of it. You just try to educate people and say to people, don't believe this stuff that you're getting on your devices. Look at the candidates, think about your future. Think about which one of these candidates you would rather see representing you in Washington, and hopefully they will be able to be governed by that. So that's all that you can do. So that causes me to worry. Now, as for the canvassing part, I think is what you asked me. The latter part?
Well, actually, I was asking more too about the COVID subcommittee.
The COVID thing. Yeah, well, look, when it comes to COVID, my big job now, we've got 2 vaccines out there. There's a 3rd and 4th on the horizon. I do believe there'll be 6 or 7 vaccines out available at some point in the not too distant future. My job is to make sure that these vaccines are distributed in an efficient manner, in an effective manner, and in an equitable manner. Those are the 3 E's that I'm going to be working with. I tell people all the time that I remember the polio vaccine. There were 2 polio vaccines. One was a shot in the arm, and one was a drop of serum on a lump of sugar. Didn't I tell you which communities got the shots and who got the lump of sugar? That's going to be our job, is to make sure that this vaccine is equitably distributed when it's made available. I'm going in to do my 2nd shot on Friday. And that's going to be another problem. And that's why I said that you all are so important, because I do believe, I have not talked to you, so I don't know if all of you feel the way I do about it, but I know about the Tuskegee experiment. And I've lived a lot of inequities. I know what it is to have appendicitis and then have to go through the back door of a doctor's office to go to a segregated wing of a hospital to have your appendix removed. So I know all of that. But you are going to be an integral part of educating the public on this vaccine, because we are not going to get rid of this pandemic until we get beyond it, which we cannot get beyond until we have organized and scientifically imposed herd immunity. Not Trump's herd immunity, but the herd immunity that comes with sufficient distribution and utilization of the vaccine. And if you don't do the vaccine, we're not going to get to where we need to be. And we're not going to get there until the public is sufficiently educated on the fact that this is not an experiment. This time is real. And we got to have faith and confidence in the process.
I hear you. The last question goes to Melba Tolliver. There are a lot of questions stacked up in the chat box, and I think what we can do is forward them to the Congressman's office and see if we can get further responses. But now, Melba.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. Congressman, I just want to assure you, you are not the oldest person at this round table. I think I have you beat by a couple of years. My question, or actually my observation, and I'd like your comments on it, is I wonder if you are kept awake at night about the state of our constitutional republic. And if the election in 2016 and the one more recently that in 2016 that brought number 45 to the White House revealed some serious flaws in this republic. Flaws that were revealed and that seemed to indicate a just widespread misunderstanding of the various ways in which the well, I'll say flaws again, were revealed. In education, in housing, just looking across the board, income inequality that are built into our system. And that one man did not create them, his tendencies revealed them, and that 71 million Americans could vote for this same person in the last election. How deeply does that concern you?
I'm deeply concerned about it. And you're right, I do stay awake at night, worried about that. And I get up early in the morning, sometimes in the middle of the night, just picking up my pen and paper, trying to put my thoughts down on paper when I think about it. You know, in preparation for every election, I go out and I find some book that will help me understand what's going on around me. And a couple of years ago in preparation, I picked up the book that was written by Alexis de Tocqueville. Many of you just studied Alexis de Tocqueville, and you know that he wrote a 2-volume work. He came to this country from France to study our penal system. But while here, de Tocqueville said he saw a certain magic in this country. And he set out to find the source of that magic. He went around visiting the various institutions in our society, visiting the churches and synagogues and temples. And de Tocqueville came to the conclusion that America is not great because it is more enlightened than any other nation, but rather because it has always been able to repair its faults. Now that's kind of interesting thing for him to write, because he wrote that while slavery was still in existence in this country. He wrote that before the Emancipation Proclamation. So I don't know if Abraham Lincoln read de Tocqueville, but I do know that the Emancipation Proclamations, there were 2 of them, were to repair a fault. I know that the Supreme Court decision of 1954 to repair a fault, Civil Rights Act, Voting Rights Act, these were attempts of by the country to repair some faults. So I do believe that this incoming administration is going to go about the business of repairing some faults that have been revealed by COVID-19. Faults in our healthcare delivery system, faults in our educational system, in our housing programs, in all the kinds of things that make for a safe and secure America. Yes, I stay awake at night, but I get out of bed every morning. I come into this building dedicated to the proposition that I'm going to do what is necessary to make this country's greatness accessible and affordable for all Americans. That keeps me going all day long. And if I do it well enough, I'll be able to sleep well at night.
All right.
Let the journalists say amen.
Thank you very much, Congressman Clyburn, and
thank you.
We very much appreciate it. Thanks for stopping by. We hope you'll come back again because, as I mentioned, we have all these questions. So obviously, you provoke a lot of questions, and as journalists, of course, these are things we'd like to pursue a little further. So thanks once again. I hope you'll come back. And for the rest of us, I wonder if Corey Atkinson is here. He was just elected president of the Washington Association of Black Journalists, and we wanted him to say a few words. And then, since we didn't have our introductions at the beginning, we can have them at the end. Corey, are you here?
Yes, I'm here, Richard.
All right, take it away.
Thank you so much, and good afternoon, everyone. Happy New Year. It's a pleasure to join you all today. I'm Corey Atkinson. I cover DC federal courts for Law 360, and as Richard just said, I was recently elected president of the Washington Association of Black Journalists. It's a new year and a new day for a chapter, and I'm humbled and excited to serve this organization, which adds a rich history and has helped propel the careers of many. In this unprecedented time for Black professionals in media, we have a lot of work to do in terms of continuing to fight for representation, not only in newsrooms, but in faculty rooms as Black journalism educators are in need of our support. Our new board will work hard to build on the work WABG has been doing over the years and to increase our membership, re-engage lapsed members and increase our program offerings. So as we move forward as a chapter, it's important that we prepare WABJ for the next generation to carry on our legacy. And in doing so, I want to make sure that our young journalists and media-related professionals know our local media legends, including many of you who are on today's Zoom call. Many of you have worked hard to diversify our newsrooms and to increase access and opportunities for journalists of color in my generation. So WABJ under my presidency will ensure that the present and future generations knows the chapter history and find a direct connection to longtime WABJ and NABJ stalwarts, as well as local media veterans. If you're not a member, and I'd love for you to join soon, you can visit our website, wabjdc.org, for more information. As previously stated, this is an exciting time for WABJ, and I am excited and proud of the team we have in place and the individuals who will be taking on the various new leadership roles we have in the coming weeks and months, and to help us implement the exciting things we have on our agenda. If you'd like to reach me, my email is Corey, that is KHORRI .wabj@gmail.com. Thank you, Richard.
Well, thank you, Corey. In fact, I believe that WABJ was founded about the same time, if not before, the National.
Yeah, that's correct. That's
so
correct.
It's got quite a history. Anybody got any questions for Corey before we go back to our introductions?
And also a quick note, Paul Delaney, he is the WABJ founder, and he's also an NABJ founder as well.
Yes, here. Okay. All right, anybody got any questions about our local chapter here in DC? Okay, good. We're gonna go into the introductions. so we can know who was here all this time. On my screen, Marita is the first person. Are you there, Marita Coley? Okay, she must have stepped out for a minute. Sharon Farmer, our photographer. Don't forget to unmute yourself when and Charlene, she has already introduced herself. Chevry.
Hi, I'm Chevry Lassiter. I'm with the Washington Informer. I'm Richard's assistant for this program. Co-assistant. Nice to be here. It's interesting and great conversation.
Okay, Hazel.
Good afternoon. I'm Hazel Trice-Edney, editor-in-chief of the Trice-Edney Newswire, president and CEO of Trice-Edney Communications. I also teach multicultural media history at the Kathy Hughes School of Communications at Howard University.
Okay, Mary Curtis.
Mary C. Curtis, CQ Roll Call, political columnist, host of the Equal Time podcast, and senior facilitator with the Op-Ed Project.
Okay, Benita Bing.
Hi, I'm Benita Bing, president of the Exposure Group, African American Photographers Association, and also producer with Richard of this podcast. I also have a studio, Talbot and Bing, located in Northeast DC in the Brooklyn area.
Okay, Kathleen Cahill.
Sorry, I was just unmuting. I'll keep it short. I was a longtime editor at the Washington Post, including several great years with Richard Prince. Thank you. And then I was a producer at WYPR in Baltimore. It's great to see several familiar faces, particularly old friends and colleagues from the Washington Post. And thanks, Richard, for everything you do.
Thank you, Kathleen. Okay, Rebecca Aguilar.
Okay. Hi, Richard. Happy New Year. I am Rebecca Aguilar. I'm the president-elect for the Society of Professional Journalists, former VP with NHJ. I did 28 years in television news, and now, fortunately, I'm a freelance reporter.
All right. I think Gloria is Gloria Minot.
Hi, Richard. Happy New Year to everyone. Gloria Minot, formerly of WPFW Radio Pacifica, right here in Washington, D.C.
Okay. Fred Sweets.
Fred Sweets, St. Louis American newspaper. #1 Black weekly, as far as I'm concerned, in the lower 48.
All right. Gene Sadler. Unmute, please. Okay. Unmute. Okay.
Oh, there we go. Okay. Gene Sadler, former communications director for the Metropolitan Washington Council of Governments and longtime Washington reporter for the Wall Street Journal and Time Magazine.
Okay. Charles Robinson. Charles. Unmute.
He's busy reading the Washington Post.
No, I don't. Well, I do read them. I read a lot of you, all of you, literally. I'm Charles Robinson. I am a reporter for Maryland Public Television that covers politics. I cover the state legislature. In addition to that, I got a new title, Richard. I'm the senior producer at Maryland Public Television.
Oh, congratulations.
Yay.
Thank you very much.
Okay. All right, Melba Tolliver.
Yes, Melba Tolliver. You can find out about my background, just check Wikipedia. They have some things wrong, but basically right. What I want to just say is I am concerned. I want to share with you all just a couple of things about my concerns as journalists. That issue that came about when Hazel asked the question and the congressman pointed out that Thurgood Marshall and Clarence Thomas may be both Black men, but there's a difference. And I think that this is really a problem when we're being talked about as people, is the assumption that there's some sort of interchangeability, that we're just one can replace the other. And I think as journalists, we need to really make a distinction. Also, problematic language. I just think not enough attention is being paid to problematic language and too much repeating rather than reporting. That's my rant for the morning.
All right, thank you. Ken Walker.
Yes, Kenneth Walker here. I'm retired now, having served many years, first with the Washington Star, then with ABC News, and lastly then with the brief USA Today broadcast, and finally with National Public Radio.
Okay, Ingrid Sturgis.
Hi, Ingrid Sturgis. I'm an associate professor and assistant chair in the Department of Media Journalism and Film in the Cathy Hughes School of Communications. Former journalist, worked for mostly Gannett Papers, and a member of the Journalism Strategy Committee.
The what? Oh, Strategy Committee, of course. Yes. The most important one. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
and
Vanessa,
congratulations to Corey. And congratulations to Corey, who I met in New York when he was just getting started.
All right.
Thank you, Ingrid.
Is Vanessa still here? Vanessa Williams? I see her name up there. All right, we'll get back to Vanessa then if she's here. And Adam Powell.
Hi, Adam Powell, Executive Director of the USC Election Cybersecurity Initiative, getting ready to go back out into the 50 states this spring virtually, and also launching a new USC Digital Inclusion Initiative with our schools of communication, education, medicine, and engineering.
Okay, Rochelle Riley.
Hello, I'm Rochelle Riley, former columnist at the Detroit Free Press, now Director of Arts and Culture for the City of Detroit, and a member of the newly constituted Board of Directors for Journal-isms. I'm so proud of what we're doing now, particularly today's session. And I'm author of 2 books that I put in the chat. Thank you so much. I'm so glad to see so many people I love on this call.
All right, Brenda Seiler.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Brenda Seiler, a contributing writer with the Washington Informer. I started off my career many, many years ago as a reporter out of Atlanta, went into organizational communications, just wrapped up a project with 2020 Census, which is still in trouble. And I'm happy to be a part of the group.
All right, Deborah Berry.
Hi, as you said, I'm Deborah Berry. I'm a national reporter with USA Today. And just so happened that I was covering Representative Clyburn in the days leading up to Election Day. And when he says that he gets up and works every day, follow him for 4 days, he really does. So.
All right, Ralph Everett.
Hi, I'm Ralph Everett, former president of Joint Center for Political and Economic Studies from South Carolina, and I've known Jim Clyburn for about 50 years. Great session today. Thanks for allowing me to participate.
Thank you, Ralph. Okay, Claudette James.
Hi, good afternoon, all. I'm Claudette James, Truth in Education and Journalism, former writer, reporter with the Philadelphia Bulletin, Greenville News newspaper, Rochester Democrat and Chronicle, on and on. Currently in Harlem, New York, and I am extremely grateful to join my colleagues in 2021 with journalism.
All right, Yannick Rice-Lamb.
Hi, everyone. I'm Yannick Rice-Lamb. I'm a professor of journalism at Howard University and co-founder of FierceForBlackWomen.com. Thanks, Richard, for organizing this, and a special shout out to Charlene Hunter-Galt and Melba Tower.
Okay. Chuck Stevens.
Hi, I'm Chuck Stevens. I'm an independent writer, formerly with Bloomberg News and the Wall Street Journal, and I'm a member of the Alumni Advisory Board at Syracuse University's Newhouse School, where I'm also co-chair of its Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee.
You're here, okay. Let's see now, I'm just turning to that. We have Fergus Shield.
Thanks, Richard, and Happy New Year to everyone. I am the managing editor of the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists. I'm an Australian-Irish journalist based in Washington, DC, and ICIJ oversees major international investigations involving hundreds of reporters around the world.
All right, hundreds, yes. Angela Dotson.
Hi. There are people on this call that I've known for 45, 40 years, so I'll make my formalities very short. I'm a former senior editor for the New York Times and former executive editor for Black Issues Book Review. Currently, I wear a number of hats. I'm the author of a book on woman suffrage called Remember the Ladies, Celebrating Those Who Fought for Freedom at the Ballot Box. And last year, I published the introduction to another suffrage book called Jailed for Freedom. I run something called Editors on Call, where I try to match journalists, graphic people, photo people with clients who need them, particularly authors. And I'm currently trying to start a sideline in voice acting.
Very good. And of course, Michael Days, her husband.
I'm married to Michael Days, who was most recently Vice President for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion at the Philadelphia Inquirer, who retired as of Thursday night.
And you had an announcement that he made about Editors on Call.
He's going to try to get Editors Up on Call actually running on a profitable footing and running the business side of it. Sometimes when I get busy, I just give away my services for free, and he thinks that's outrageous. So we're going to be working more on that. And we do have clients waiting for us. And I do some of the work, but I have a lot of you actually have worked for me. So I look forward to doing that with him.
Okay. Ivan Roman.
Hi, my name is Ivan Roman. I'm a freelance journalist in Washington, D.C., former executive director of the National Association of Hispanic Journalists, and longtime journalist in Rochester, Miami, and plenty of other places.
Okay, Pearl Stewart.
Hi, Pearl Stewart. I'm a veteran, longtime journalist, San Francisco Chronicle, Oakland Tribune, and current freelance writer. And this was great, Richard. This was a wonderful session.
Great, great, great. Lynn Adrian.
I'm Lynn Adrian. I am also on the board for Journal-isms, happily serving. I'm previous senior producer at ABC News, NBC, CBS, otherwise. Right now, I am the director of the Washington Capstone Program, graduate capstone program in broadcast and digital journalism for the Newhouse School at Syracuse.
Okay, Joseph Torres.
I am Joseph Torres. I work for a group called Free Press, the media and telecom policy group in DC, and I often write on race and media and telecom policy, write frequently on those issues.
Okay, John Yearwood.
Hey, Richard. Hello to everyone. I am currently an editor at Politico and a current board member of the International Press Institute in Vienna, and a former NABJ treasurer. And, you know, this has been, as always, Richard, a really terrific Sunday afternoon. And to Adam Clayton Powell, I owe you an email.
Okay, Elliot Francis.
Yes, thanks, Richard, and Happy New Year. Elliot Francis has spent 45 years as a news anchor reporter in about 5 major cities, including Washington, D.C., where I am now. They're including ABC 7 and WAMU, the NPR affiliate there in Washington, D.C. I'm currently producer host of Now with Elliot Francis, live streamed each week on Facebook and YouTube. Great session this afternoon, too. Thank you.
Excellent, excellent. Jeanette Pinckney.
Hello, everyone, and Happy New Year. I'm a mostly retired, longtime print and broadcast journalist in DC, New York, and Johannesburg.
Okay, Sheila Solomon.
Happy New Year, everyone. It's Sheila Solomon, former Chicago Tribune editor, currently the Strategic Alliance Liaison for Rivet Smart Media here in Chicago, and I'm also the president of the board of the McClatchy Journalism Institute.
Okay. Bobby Bowman.
Hi, Happy New Year, everybody. Dick Prince and I grew up together at the very happy graduate student in history at George Mason University. And it is just wonderful to see so many old friends. Great to see everybody. Thank you.
Okay, Sandra Hominick.
Good afternoon. I'm Sandra Hominick. I'm a founder and editor of In Your Shoes Media, which is a digital magazine. And I am also a year in now as DEI editor at the Baltimore Sun. And fingers crossed, within the week, I will be letting you all know about a position that we have open to join my team as part of our DEI team.
And I'll let everyone know who's not familiar with DEI, what that stands for.
Diversity, equity, and inclusion.
All right, okay. Miranda Spivak.
Hi, everybody. I'm Miranda Spivak. I formerly worked at the Washington Post, and the last several years I've been freelancing, mostly writing about state and local lack of transparency at the government level.
And you were just named. Go ahead.
I really fortunate. I just got an Alicia Patterson grant to do more stories in that genre. Thanks, Richard.
Okay, thank you. Michael Hill.
Thank you, Richard. Michael Hill, retired TV editor from the Washington Post. Thanks for a great afternoon, Richard, and Happy New Year.
All right, Happy New Year to you too. John X. Miller.
Good afternoon, everyone.
We don't see you.
You don't want to. Good afternoon, everybody. I am here first and foremost with my fiance, Allison Bethel McKenzie. We got
congratulations
for Christmas.
Woohoo!
Hey, that's all. Everything else is gravy. So I'm currently editor at The Undefeated, chairman of the Maynard board, and longtime journalist. And here's Allison.
Allison Bethel McKenzie. I'm director. Well, actually, tomorrow I become vice president of Core Excellence for Report for America.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you, which means that I'm in charge of our, how many do we have now? 300 journalists and 200 plus newsrooms throughout the United States, including Puerto Rico, Hawaii, Guam, etc. So I'm excited about that. I also, in this expanded role, will be assisting in our diversity, equity, and inclusion work, and also we'll be spearheading a new program we have for the Black press, including St. Louis.
Yes, yes.
So I'm excited about that. We have 3 Black media companies this year, and we go to 27. And last year, we go to 27 in 2021. And I'm a member of Journal-isms Strategic Committee, along with a couple of other boards. Thanks, Richard.
Here, okay.
You're a lucky man, John X. Yes, I know.
Okay, Ed Lake, do you want to say who you are? Oh, unmute, please.
Hello, my name is Ed Lake. I'm married to Ingrid Sturgis, and I'm also a freelance writer in the DC area.
Okay. All right, now who have we not gotten to?
Gene.
Oh, Gene, sorry, okay.
All right, well, good afternoon, Happy New Year. I'm Gene Meyer. I also with Bobby and Richard were young reporters together once.
Yes.
And a long time ago. Before that, even I worked for the Philadelphia Bulletin. Some of you have that connection as well.
Mike Hill was on the desk.
Michael was on the desk. The Philadelphia Bulletin, I don't remember that.
Okay.
But I'm the author. I'm former Washington Post reporter and editor. I'm the author of Fight for Freedom, the African American Soldiers in John Brown's Army. I'm the editor of B'nai B'rith magazine, and I'm on the board of the Washington Independent Review of Books. And Richard, another great journalism, and thank you so much to everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Caroline, I don't know, you're on the road. I don't know if you can hear us or communicate with us. We don't want to call.
Absolutely, yes, I can. Thank you, Richard. Thank you for another great journalism roundtable. I'm Caroline Brewer, former editorial writer and columnist for The Record in Hackensack, New Jersey. I'm currently a marketing and communications professional and also a children's author and content creator. I'd like to make a special PSA for Taking Nature Black, which is a national conference about environmental affairs featuring African Americans who are working in every aspect of the environment, happening February 23rd through the 27th virtually. And we'd love for any journalists who are interested in environmental affairs to be a part of the conference. Richard has my email. You can contact me. There will also be an intersection between the arts and the environment as a part of the conference. Thank you.
Very good, very good. Okay, we have a few minutes left here. Does anybody have any thoughts or reflections on what Congressman Clyburn was saying, particularly about our role as journalists? Yeah, let me just ask that.
Richard, can you drop Carolyn's email in the chat, please, when you're able? Thanks.
Okay. Nobody has any thoughts on what Congressman Clyburn?
No, I have thoughts on everything, so I'm happy. Let me just say this. I was thrilled at his comments, and I'm hoping that as part of its mission to save democracy, that the congressional representatives who care take great care to remember that the Fourth Estate is a vital part of their mission too. So as they see the kinds of attacks that are going on, that they step up a little bit more to make sure that people understand the vital role that journalists play. I don't want to suggest that people didn't say or do things, but I think there needs to be much more attention paid so that folks like Yamiche and well, everybody, I don't want to single out people because they're horrible to everybody, but I just think there should be more of a protective spirit in those journalists who are real journalists, and making sure that that whole construct is protected.
Okay. Anybody else?
I'd like to chime in just to say that on the night that President Obama was elected, when he was elected, Reverend Joseph Lowry said to me, and when I asked him, how do we cover him fairly? He said to me, we must speak truth to power, no matter what color power is. And I say that to encourage us to make sure that although we have an African-American vice president who is a woman, that we still keep the pressure on, that we remember that it's not just, even the media can sort of become enamored with the fact that we have one in, but we want to make sure that we hold them accountable to what we, the people, need and want, and make sure that we continue to press them for what is right and just in the eyes of we the people.
Hear, hear.
Okay. I wanted to follow up on what Melva Tolliver and the congressman said, which is being careful about false equivalencies. When the idea that there's just another Black person to fill in the role of another Black person, that those two people may have entirely different agenda, and we have to be careful about that. And included in that, when he was talking about these vandalism attacks at the homes of both Pelosi and McConnell, that we have to do more context to our reporting, as opposed to saying, well, they said this and they said that. And he's very specific about saying that this is a sophisticated type of attack, and it's designed to infer something that we may not really know to be true, or they're trying to cast the focus in a certain direction. That's part of our job going forward, because it is more sophisticated, and people are trying to play us. They are trying to play us, and we have to be really aware of how we use our language so that we don't fall into the trap of putting everything into the same mixing bowl.
Okay.
I think it'll be fun to watch him walk the fine line with the progressive wing that's in there, especially very interesting Jamal Bowman out of New York, the educator, and of course, Cori Bush out of St. Louis, and Nikema, what's Nikema's last name, out of Georgia. They will align more, I think, are likely to align with AOC, Tlaib, and the rest of the folks. And we're going to see what the whip can do with all of that. It's going to be interesting next few days. That's what he was talking about, the next few days, and the fact that I had Cori on my show, and that's a good idea. You better make friends with that whole progressive wing to kind of hold things together. It's going to be interesting to watch as the vote approaches.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Anyone else?
I have one.
Brenda.
Yes, thank you. This was a very good session. So happy that we were able to have Leader Clyburn with us. The question that I asked about the cyber attack, he really didn't answer. And this is a very serious issue. As I said in my question, there's a new layer that's peeled back every day. We've heard a lot of experts and analysts talk about it. And I don't know if it's that it's so big that it's difficult to get one's arms around it, but I see this as another, I mean, there's so many major issues coming in for this new administration, but this one, and we know where it's coming from, at least. I feel like maybe we don't really know, or maybe it's under wraps because it is a security issue. I'm not feeling that there's a clear direction as to how do we deal with this.
Okay. Anyone else?
Hi, Richard. Are you working to get someone from the administration at some point to come to the journalism workshop? Oh, I mean, event?
Of course, we would try to do that. In fact, there was a question about if there's been someone named yet to be the liaison for the press, for the quote unquote specialty press. And the answer I got was that they're looking into that. So we don't know yet who is going to be, who has a particular, will have a particular responsibility for making sure that we're included as journalists of color, particularly in access to the administration.
Well, Richard, I felt like he challenged, this is Marita Coley at MMTC. I felt like he was challenging us on the Black Lives Matter movement. He actually didn't answer the question I asked either, but he actually raised something that was more important. And that has to do with Black Lives Matter movement and the possible infiltration. And so I was kind of surprised that he actually, spoke of that, but he also suggested that we as journalists and media people need to do our part to expose what is going on. So I just like to charge our group with, if there's things that we feel like we can do to do that, because I felt the same way, and I'm sure a lot of other people have felt the same way about the messaging being co-opted and, trying to turn the movement into a soundbite that represents something nefarious as rather than something, really powerful and positive. So just if we could all think about what we can do, to do something about that.
Okay. Claudette, is that your hand up? Unmute, please.
Thanks. Just a reminder that it is not too early to begin thinking about and preparing for the next presidential election season, because there were some questions, for example, about the $2,000 stimulus proposal and whether that was part of a strategy for 4 years from now for someone to cite, well, I wanted to give everybody $2,000. They wouldn't let me. So just to remind my colleagues that it's really not too early to begin thinking about the next presidential election season. It's off and running already.
Okay, Rochelle?
I have two little follows. One is he made a point of saying he wasn't answering the question about what they're doing about the mayhem that's to come between now, over the next 17 days, and probably all 4 years facing President Biden with the seditionists, Republicans and people who plan to make sure that life is hard. So if he and Nancy Pelosi are talking about it every day, at some point, I hope they talk to the American people about what they actually plan to do. The second thing is I would really hope that there's no longer this segregationist attitude about dealing with the media. I appreciate that having a specialty editor to make sure that Black folks are included, make sure that they're included. But then what happens sometimes is they're treated like second tier media. And I know that as a columnist at the Free Press, sometimes I was put into the press conferences and emails given to the Black weeklies when I needed daily information from the press secretary, and I had to remind them I was working for a major daily.
Right.
So if you asked whose job it is, I think it's the communications director, and that they need to make sure that everybody who asks a question on behalf of the American people gets the same treatment.
That's right.
You're here. I was about to ask what people from the Black press have to say about that, but Hazel is.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's absolutely true. I remember having to be separated out as specialty press under President Obama. Remember, I got in trouble when I said that we were window dressing. I was sitting on the first row at this first press conference, and everybody else, I think, except me and a young lady from maybe BET or The Root, we were the only ones. The two Black ones on the front row were the only ones who didn't get a question. Everybody else, white on the front row, got a question. And so a lot of times we're window dressing no more.
All right. That's Rebecca. Sorry. No, she has written in the chat room. She said, Michelle is right. It's even worse for the Spanish language media.
Yeah, can I jump in here real quick?
Yes, please.
I mean, I am so glad you guys are speaking up about, imagine, I get it as African Americans, but when you're Latinos, then it's even like we're further back. We're further back. We're not even window dressing, know? And then Spanish language, it's like, do we need, for some reason, they always think we need a translator. Spanish language media, case in point, like Jorge Ramos, he speaks Spanish, right? And English, but they constantly think, oh yeah, we'll address you later. Well, you can talk to us, Spanish language media in English, because we're going to translate it in Spanish anyway, even if you don't have someone speak with us or to us, because they never do. So I'm glad you guys brought it up, but just think, if you have it like this as African Americans, where do you think Latinos and then Spanish language media have it? Even worse.
Okay. All right. Anyone else? Okay. All right. So we've exhausted the subject, and I'm glad to hear that. Thank you very much, everybody. If you have any further things to say, I'll leave the chat room open for, a few more minutes. Oh, Desi needs to, okay, got it.
Are we going to have a cheers for 2021? Whatever happened to that?
All right. Cheers for 2021.
I don't even.
And thank goodness nobody said
Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year.
New Year.
Happy New Year.
Let's week on water.
Happy New Year.
New Year.
Happy New Year.
New Year.
Happy New Year.
Game plan. Happy New Year.
Game plan for the Black press, Hazel.
Okay, let's turn up. Like the young people say, turn up. That's the only direction to go for the Black press, for any press. Just keep the pressure on and make the American people's voice heard.
Exactly.
Make the comfortable and comfort the afflicted.
Exactly.
All right. Here.
Well, yes. All right. Bye.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Richard.
See you next month.
All right.
Those people on Facebook Live. All right. Glad everybody was able to participate. All right.
Okay, that's it.